Hi and welcome to Fabricville. With Halloween approaching, today I'm going to show you how to make this fairy costume. We'll be using the Michaels pattern M4887. This costume consists of a dress with thin straps, a vest, a petticoat, and wings. To make this costume you will need the pattern, pins, scissors, thread, tape, a hook and eye, velcro tape, wire and pliers, lining fabric, satin for the main fabric, transparent fabric for the wings, and tulle in various colors for the petticoat. I always start by pinning the pattern pieces to the fabric according to the grain line. Then I cut out the pieces. I cut the main fabric, the lining for the vest, and the petticoat in different layers of tulle. Lastly, I cut the two wing pieces. I don't forget to transfer the pattern markings to the fabric. To begin, I overlock the side edges of the dress. I place the back and the front of the dress right sides together, and I stitch the sides. I press the seams open, and I press the top and bottom hems before stitching them. To make the straps, I fold the strips with the right side in, stitch along the edge, then turn the straps right side out and press. Next, I finish the ends with a zigzag stitch. I pin the straps according to the markings on the front and back and sew them in place. Now I move on to the vest. I place the front pieces on the back piece, right sides together, and I stitch the shoulder seams. Then I press the seams open. I assemble the lining the same way and I place the lining on the fabric with right sides together. I pin, then I sew the front edges, neckline, and armholes. Next, I press the seam allowance towards the lining and top stitch them to the lining 2 mm from the seam line. I top stitch wherever possible. Now I pin the sides of the vest, making sure to align the seam lines between the lining and the fabric. Then I pin the fabric to fabric and lining to lining. I stitch. Then I open the seams and press. And I also press the bottom edges of the lining toward the inside. Moving on to the vest skirt, I place the front pieces on the back and sew the side seams. I press the seams open. As with the top of the vest, I repeat these steps with the lining and place the pieces together, and I sew the rounded edges together. As before, I top stitch the seam allowances to the lining. Now I pin the bottom of the vest to the upper edge of the skirt, matching the side seams. I stitch. Then hand stitch the pressed edge of the lining with slip stitches. Still by hand, I sew a hook and eye to the front edges at the waistline. I will now attach Velcro strips to fasten the wings according to the pattern markings. I sew along the four edges of the strips. Now for the wings, I place the two upper wings pieces right sides together and sew the outer edges, leaving an opening to turn them right side out. And I do the same with the lower wing pieces. I trim the seam allowances, turn them right side out, and press if needed. Then I sew a second line 6 mm from the edge, this time without leaving an opening. This will create a casing. I will insert a wire into this casing. First, I tape the end of the wire to avoid damaging the fabric, and I slide the wire through. When the ends meet, I secure them together with tape. And I close the opening by hand. When the wings are ready, I overlap and I pin the other part of the Velcro strips. And I stitch them. Final part of the costume, the petticoat. First, I layer the satin waistband strips and sew the sides. I leave an opening between the markings on the left side. I press the seams open, press the waistband folded in half, and also press one of the edges folded to the inside. There will be 3 layers of tulle. For each layer, I sew the front and back pieces to the sides. Then I stack the 3 layers, aligning the side seams, and sew these 3 layers together with 2 lines of gathering stitches, meaning long stitches without back stitching. Once the 2 lines are sewn, I gently pull on the top threads to gather the fabric. I adjust the gathers to match the waistline of the skirt, and I pin the unfolded part of the waistband to the gathered edge with the right sides together. I stitch, trim the seam allowances, and I fold the waistband in half with the wrong side inside, and I stitch close to the bottom edge. If needed, I remove any remaining visible gathering threads. Now I thread the elastic attached to a safety pin through the waistband, through the opening left. I join the ends of the elastic and I close the waistband opening by hand. We now have a dress, a petticoat, a vest, and wings. Our costume is ready. Visit your Fabricville store to choose your fabrics and glitter tulle. Have a great Halloween and see you soon!